Hello, love. I hope this video finds you doing well. I was just providing another reminder. There's been much journaling going on at the place where I be at. So, over the last few videos, I've been trying to tie sort of this bigger picture about what I think is going on in the universe with what is going on with humanity right now. And so, before I go into talking about what I hope you glean from your homework assignment, I just wanted to do a correction because when I was talking about um, chimpanzees and how long they've existed on Earth, I said 800, but I meant to say 800,000 to 1 point whatever millions of years that it's estimated that our closest relative in terms of the animal kingdom on Earth has existed here. So, the point being, of course, that if all the other animals who don't have a big brain that interferes with them coming into balance on Earth, if they can live here for all this time because they've come into balance with Earth, it would seem that given all of our amazing gifts and capabilities, that this has been one big experiment, maybe, to bring about a being that could come into balance with Earth and learn how to use the big brain that it has where it doesn't have to be in balance with Earth, which is clearly where we are right now. We're struggling as humanity to figure out how to do this and do this in balance with the Earth. And I wanted you to learn about keystone species because keystone species help us understand that there are critical species in a particular ecosystem that when those animals do what they're supposed to do in relation to all the other life that exists within that ecosystem, well, that ecosystem will thrive. So it's already been done, right? So if the other animals have been here for billions, millions, hundreds of millions of years, they figured it out. It's humans that haven't yet figured out how to be in balance with Earth. But because we have such good examples, we can learn. And I think, well, I know that indigenous peoples are aware of that, aware of how to exist in a particular region of Earth, either as a keystone species or as a steward over ensuring that the keystone species that are there are thriving so that everything else, every other living thing in that ecosystem can also thrive, right? And so if we come into balance with Earth, what could heaven not be but us thriving on the planet that we came into existence on? I think for this purpose to see what we can do, to see how well we can thrive on Earth. And I was thinking about this, so I'm going to go out of order a little bit since I'm talking about a homework assignment. For your homework assignment, I want you to really ponder this idea or this understanding we have that we are one planet in a solar system, in a galaxy, in an entire universe. And so when you understand that there are, millions of galaxies, so how many different solar systems are there? So we're only aware of us as quote unquote life that exists in the universe. And so when you think about the universe in totality, and then you think about our place in the universe, our galaxy, the Milky Way, is believed to be one of the older parts of the universe. And so for your homework assignment, I just want you to ponder the idea that the universe been doing this for a very, very long time. And maybe all those other galaxies and all those other solar systems are just waiting for us to figure this out. And so once the consciousness on earth gets to a certain place, maybe that will open up other worlds to us within the universe. Maybe, perhaps. You can imagine, when when you see domino art and you have the finger that pushes and then it's a reaction that takes place. And then there's something at the end of one piece of art that triggers the next piece of art and the next piece of art, right? Or if you play a video game and you get to a certain level, well, then that opens up a new region, area, world within the game. And then you do that world. And so it's not hard to imagine that the universe, the life giver, it's easy to imagine that things were put in place so that until we got this figured out, we would not be able to access if there is other life in the universe. We're not ready to access it, right? Or once we get this figured out, then the universe has it set up that we can explore other regions of the universe. That knowing will become available to us. Just an idea, something to ponder. Look at your astronomy, astrology, all that good stuff. So I was talking about lies and deception, and this is where we are. It's becoming more and more clear that there's a lot of deception that's going on. And the nature of how we interact and communicate and learn, so much of that is through language, it's through how we speak and how we talk to one another. And so I would encourage and urge you to really be careful about the language that you're using. Like I said before, this is how we learn, this is how we know how to do this on earth, is through communicating, through sharing the story, giving the testimony. And so the future is watching. And so if we're constantly using the wrong terminology, the wrong way of describing things, then it just perpetuates a certain level of confusion. And so we know that race does not exist. It's just a lie. Now, because maybe you can argue it was a theory and maybe they did think that that was true. But once they mapped the genome, they came to understand that it wasn't true. And so to continue to perpetuate something that's not true, well, you're lying. And you're lying because that's something that those who are identified, identity is not necessary, but those who have identified with that lie are too frightened to figure out a way to understand their existence on earth, except through that concept and idea. Um, but that's not okay because that concept and idea is built on the backs of other people, is built on the suffering of other people, is it's just a lie. And so when we use language, it's very important that we use accurate language and that we're not perpetuating lies and deception. And so, for example, and this is critically important, if we're continuing to use the term race and racism, that's never going to be solved. That's unsolvable problem. And that's why ill-intended folk who have built their money making system on lies and deception are okay with folks continuing to use the term racism. And they allow that to be perpetuated unchecked, right? Because I could go so many different places every time I do one of these because I don't know where folks are. I don't know what folks are struggling with. And so I'm just trying to give what I think is the most critical information, but I can just talk endlessly about so many different aspects of what is going on right now. But the money making system that is the United Divided States, it's built on oppression, it's built on the terrorism that established the ability to put in lower levels of oppression to keep people in check because you traumatize them. Okay, so that's the backdrop of everything. Then you have your media machine, you have your laws, and you have your law enforcement. And then you have your propagandist architecture and art, right? And that's a whole nother thing. But the media is controlled by ill-intended folk. That's just the reality. And so people have to operate within a media system because it's such a critical part of the money-making system. It's a pillar of the money-making system. The media space is just very dicey. It's just you just see it like it's incredible. The ways and people have to tiptoe and try to provide truth, but they can't be too forthcoming with truth because then they're going to be a threat to the people. You want to provide something for people, right? That's based in reality. And so language is so important. And so to continue to use racism is such a disservice to humanity because that is not what's going on. Oppression is what's going on in all its various forms. I didn't talk about it in the last video, but oppression is double standard. Oppression is bias. Oppression is differential treatment. Oppression is many things, but ultimately it's disrespect. Ultimately, so when we're talking about race, oh, they were racist again. No, they were disrespectful. They disrespected your value as a human being because they live in a trick that has convinced them that it's okay for them to do so, based on this idea that I'm inherently better somehow, but based on what? Because you just want to be? That's basically all it is, right? And so what are we doing? Right? What are we trying to do now? And so we've got to move away from lies. And so I didn't want this to be too long. Um, so I'm gonna just leave you with a couple more things and then we'll see. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm kind of on a schedule with how I am doing these videos, and this is the schedule that I'm going to try to maintain until I get some indication that I don't have to do videos no more. Um, and so I'm just going to leave you with this because I don't want to just go on and on and on. Evil, right? Evil is a part of this experience. I pointed this out before, but the word evil backwards is live. Like this is the yin yang. This is what it is to come into a human body. We have this capacity to be evil. Okay? So devil literally means of evil. And you hear the term devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. It's really that simple. If you are lying to people, it is to your benefit at their expense. That's just that's just it. It's not love in no way, shape, or form. It's not. And so I think in the next video, I'm really going to try to focus on an understanding of what it is to really be on the path of love. Because I think that's what people maybe need the most help with at this point because you see that it's a lie. And so, are you going to be of a lie? You're going to be, you're going to follow a devil where you think the devil is going, right? Or are you going to try to make an attempt to deal with what is true, to get that accurate description of what has actually happened, to give that actual description of the unfolding of life. That's all this is. That's all the truth is. Either you one with it or you're not. And if you're not, you know, that once again, that's your choice. So I gave you your homework assignment, right? You're gonna check out the universe and all of that, and just really think about like I think this is just the beginning. Once we get this balance with life thing figured out, I think we gonna have us a good time. I just since I gave a shout out last time, um, I just wanted to give a shout out, Chickadee. I love you so much. And this has been so hard for me. Um, but I trust. I trust in what is true. And I had to just trust that the life giver knows best. And so I never wanted to have to be apart from you this long under these circumstances. Um, and so I just want you to know I love you. And whew, you know, we'll be back together one of these days. And Abdul Rahman, I love you so much too. And we're going to do some puzzles together. All right. Okay. So who do I belong to? That's right. And just so we don't get it mixed up, when I see you and you say to me, who do I belong to? Me. No hesitation. I love you. Bye bye.